What is up, guys? Jimmy Feels here with another video, and today we're taking a look at a Burning Abyss deck profile. I haven't done a profile on Burning Abyss in a while, but I put a poll up on my community tab, and I asked, who out of the 4 decks listed, what everyone wanted to see a deck profile of, and Burning Abyss, I believe, got like 50% of the vote. Winning the poll, basically. I mean, there wasn't anything else that was really even close. I think the closest we had was like 20% after the 50%. So like Burning Abyss just took it by storm, which is awesome. I haven't done a profile of it in a while, and I've had a list in mind that I've been toying around with that I think is it's pretty darn sweet. I really enjoy this deck. As everybody knows, this is the deck that really got me to just want to play the game for a very long time. I've been playing since the game came out, but realistically, Burning Abyss is the deck that really lit a spark under me, kind of saying, hey, you should play this game at a very competitive level. And I've done so. I love playing the game still in a certain capacity, not as in-depth as I used to, but I prefer to teach people how to play a little more competitively like I used to. That way people can get a grip as to how the game really works at an in-depth level. So before we jump into the deck profile, if you guys are not subscribed already, you already know the drill. Go ahead and smash the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on, and obviously leave a comment down below and tell me how much you love Burning Abyss. So let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. We will obviously start with the main deck, as we always do. Okay, so we're starting with the main deck, and I went with 42 cards. So I'll preface that. The reason I went with 42 cards, you guys will see as we progress through the profile. A lot of my Burning Abyss lists, I go for like 45 cards. I almost never do 40. That's something that I feel that a lot of people who keep up with my content know, is that I really don't stick at like a 40 card list with Burning Abyss. And honestly, as of late, a lot of the decks that I've been playing like 45 cards in. It just works for me. The ratios work for me. I have an Adignister list that's 45 cards. I have a Dragon Link list that's 45 cards. So for whatever reason, right now 45 cards is working very well for me. But looking at the lineup for the Burning Abyss monsters, we play 3 copies of Graph. Graph is your best Burning Abyss monster in the deck. I think everyone just kind of knows that as it is. Card's really busted, summoning another Burning Abyss from your deck when it's sent from basically anywhere to the graveyard. You could discard it, you could dump it from your deck, you could link with it, you could attach it off an XYZ monster. It doesn't make a difference how it hits the graveyard. If it hits the grave, you special summon a Burning Abyss from your deck. But if you're watching my content and you're a subscriber, you probably know that already. Speaking of which, if you are a subscriber, thank you for subscribing. Additionally, I want to go ahead and make a quick little note that I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. I think right now we're 39 away, and we have basically a week to do, well, less than a week. I think we have 5 or 6 days to get 39 more subscribers. I think we can do it, and I'm gonna go ahead and promote this video as much as possible before then, and hopefully get a bunch of people to hit that subscribe button. But without taking up too much time, let's go ahead and jump into the next ratio, which is 2 copies of Skarm, Malebranche of the Burning Abyss. I don't think 3 is necessary. I think that 3 is cloggy. I think Graph is necessary at 3 versus the Skarm being necessary at 2, because with the Graph, like, you want to see it. Like, if you see Graph, whether you mill it off of a Dante or you draw it, you're back in business, and you can go ahead and you can do your whole opening combo, which is very important to note. The Skarm is just really good to get, a tour guide or another fiend monster that you need to your hand. So I still think Skarm is useful. It's just not as useful as Graph. Another 2 that we play is 2 copies of Seer. Now, in a lot of my prior iterations of the deck, I played 3 copies, and I still think 3 is okay depending on your list. In my current list, I'm going with 2 because honestly, I don't want to see this card a lot. I'd rather just summon it off of the Dante, or off the Graph effect, and then just link with it in the Dante to make a link 2, and then summon back the Dante and make a Beatrice. So 2 Seer is perfectly fine. It's your graveyard revival. 2 still gives you the loop with Dante, and I'm not playing Desire, so I'm not going to banish any Seers. Like, I don't have to worry about that. The other 2 that we play is 2 copies of Farfa. I don't think you need any more than 2 of this card. 2 is perfectly fine. It's another card that you don't necessarily want to see, but like if you open up 3 Burning Abyss that aren't Graph and you have to end on Beatrice, you can detach this off of the Beatrice, and not only do you get a dump, you also get a banish of your opponent's card. So that's actually very important to note. Then I'll just show the one-ofs. We have 1 Barbar, 1 Libic, and 1 Alec. These are all fine at 1. I opted not to play Calcab. I just didn't have a reason to play Calcab, honestly. There's not like a bunch of back row decks that I feel I need to hit with a Calcab, and most of the time if they set up enough back row, I'm not going to be pushing through it anyways. So I just opted to stick with these 3. The Alec is really good in certain scenarios. If you have like a Beatrice, you can send this off the Beatrice, and then you can like negate like a Verte or something like that. So the Libic is good. Everyone knows why Libic is good. Just negates your BA effect, which makes link climbing a little more effective. And then the Barbar is just to burn your opponent, whether it's completely for game or you just have to go ahead and win in time, like whatever the case may be. Barbar does come up every once in a while. Then we have our honorary 3 of Burning Abyss, which is 3 Fiendish Rhino Warrior. Obviously, he's not actually a Burning Abyss, but he might as well be one because he is absolutely fantastic. This card is very, very powerful, being able to dump any Fiend. Opening this card and another BA is basically opening Tour Guide. It does everything you need it to do. It dumps your graph from deck to grave, and then you go ahead and you have the lovely ability of being able to, you know, dump another Fiend. So if you open up like this in an Alec, you basically have full combo. As long as you don't open up like Rhino Warrior and graph, then, you know, that kind of hurts. But other than that, the card's just really, really good. So 3 Rhino Warrior is a must. Now, the next ratio is something that I have been very, very against for a long time, and I'm still 50-50 on it. I don't know. I'm very 50-50 on it. And that is 2 copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld. A lot of people are playing 2 right now. I get that, like, there are hand traps running around. You have Ash, Veiler, Imperm, like, all that stuff. I get it, but I've always been a 3 Tour Guide kind of guy. I still have my 3rd one off to the side. Obviously, it's not on the camera, and it's not in the deck, sadly. But I just think this card is so powerful, and, like, I think that risking this card getting hand trapped is worth playing 3 of it, but I'm going with 2 for this just because I'm testing out some different builds and trying things out, and 2 is okay as long as you, like I said, as long as you open up Graph and another BA, or Rhino Warrior, another BA, or Tour Guide, you do have your full combo. You don't have to worry excessively about what's going to happen. Like, you're going to be able to resolve your cards. And we have 1 copy of Absolute King Backjack. This is just for your trap engine. We are playing the trap build still. I want to play a hand trap variant at some point, but honestly, every single time I do any kind of test hand, it seems extremely subpar regardless of whether or not I can make a Zeus. So I typically lean towards the trap variation just because I can set a bunch of back row and protect myself, and that seems a whole lot better to me. But the Backjack is really good. I think that it's definitely worth playing the 1 of. You really don't want to draw it. You just want to dump it off of like Fiend Griefing or Beatrice. Now, the next addition to the deck is something that I feel most people should kind of figure is going to pop up in a lot of decks, and that is our Fusion Destiny engine. So if you open up your typical BA combo and a copy of Fusion Destiny, you're basically set for the game. Like, you win the game. There's absolutely no doubt about it. If you open up like a Tour Guide, a Fusion Destiny, and 3 traps, like your opponent does not win. Like, they just lose the entire game. So that's pretty neat. Additionally, your standard, like if you just have Tour Guide or, you know, some way to graph effect off of a Dante or whatever, basically any way that you can do your standard BA combo, you can make a Verte instead of an IP, and then you can end on DP and a Beatrice, which is pretty good. So this is a very solid engine. I think the draw 2 is pretty good choice. I don't think you have to play like the Mali combo. I considered playing Malicious and doing that, but it's not that good, so I just stuck with these, and definitely worth playing the Dasher Celestial for the draw 2 portion. That's very, very important. Then we have, for the other spell that we only play 1 other spell, and that is 1 Called by the Grave. This is basically like your 3rd copy of Tour Guide, if you want to consider it that. If you don't want to play another spell card, you can always just play the 3rd Tour Guide, or you could play another Burning Abyss name too. That's obviously an option. But this card is very important, I think, as a whole, because it just outs certain hand traps, which obviously are important to out. I did not opt to go with the Crossout Designator package because I'm playing so many trap cards. I don't have like any room for it, so we went with the 1 Called by, and it works perfectly fine. Those are all the spells and monsters, though. We'll move on to the traps now. There's a lot of traps, but it's definitely necessary. So we have 3 copies of Solemn Strike, which I feel most people would understand playing 3 Solemn Strike in the current format. It's either a monster negation, or you can just go ahead and negate the summon of a monster or monsters. Shout out to Triff negating that pendulum summon. So basically this card is just fantastic against a lot of boards. It's also really good against Drytron, and I know Drytron isn't being played as much right now, but I'm going to leave these on the screen because we have another card, which is 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. Now, whether you go first or second is kind of irrelevant for what I'm about to discuss, and that is the ability to completely blow through Drytron's negation board without them having anything to do. So if you go first and you have these 2 cards set in your back row, you can go ahead and flip a Torrential, and if your opponent negates it with their Herald, you can go ahead and just Solemn Strike the Herald, and then their whole board is still wiped. You can do this going first or second. Like, it's more than possible to pull it off. Card's just really, really good. So playing the Torrential Strike combo, I think, is definitely an essential. Just a very good, solid overall 6-card package. Then we have 3 copies of Dinomischus and 2 copies of Karma Cut for my discard outlets. I think that playing these is probably your best bet. You can sub Karma Cut out for certain other cards. You can play Phoenix Wing, Wind Blast. You can play Raigeki Break. But keep in mind, Raigeki Break is a counter trap, so you can't set it off of Trap Trick. So that's kind of why I went with the Karma Cut. And on top of that, there is an actual decent amount of Eldritch play right now. Like, I'm actually seeing a lot of people play Eldritch, which doesn't surprise me. It's definitely a solid rogue choice. So if you Karma Cut a Golden Lord in the field and they have another one in grave, well, now they're out of both Golden Lords. And the Dinomischus is just good spot removal. I feel like I shouldn't have to explain that whatsoever. It's also another body on the board if you activate a trap card. So yeah, Dinomischus is really good. Then we have 2 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. A lot of the cards in the meta right now are of the same type. Seeing a decent amount of Dragon Link, a lot of the Tenyi Sword Soul stuff. Seeing, Eldritch too. You could hit Eldritch with the Ice Dragon's Prison. Bird Up is another deck. You can stop their whole starting combo, which is really good. It's good against a lot of things. It's not just one deck. It's good against a lot. So I think that playing the Ice Dragon's Prison is fully worth it. At 2, like, you can't go wrong with that card. Then we have 2 copies of Fiend Griefing, which is very, very good against DPE. Let me just say, like, your opponent can go ahead and pop one of your cards, but if you have the Fiend Griefing set, well, they're not going to be enjoying the game because they no longer have their DPE on the field, or in the grave on the field. Doesn't matter. It's basically the same thing for DPE. So Fiend Griefing is really good for that reason. It dumps your backjack from deck too, which is really neat. It's also really good. Your opponent activates Invocation. You just flip this, shuffle their Alistair back, and then they probably lose the game. And you probably get another trap out of it because, once again, you can send your backjack. So Fiend Griefing is really good. I contemplated playing 3. I actually have 3 Italian copies coming in the mail. I have a decent amount of cards coming in the mail. Christmas was extremely helpful to me, which was nice. So the last normal trap that we play is 2 copies of Trap Trick. This card is, as we all know, very, very integral to the Burning Abyss strategy. Just a very powerful card overall when you're playing the trap variation. Sets all your traps that you need. The only things that it's not going to set are your Solemn Strikes that you play in this list, and the last trap card, which is your Imperial Order. Other than that, all of your traps are valid targets off of the Trap Trick, which is very important. So keep in mind that other than Imperial Order and Solemn Strike, you can basically set your entire trap lineup from your deck, which is very, very sweet. So that is the entirety of the main deck. As I said before, it is 42 cards, which I think is perfectly fine. I haven't had any issues in all the test draws that I've done, and it seems to be functioning fairly well. Now, additionally to that, seeing I just mentioned test draws, if you guys would like to see a separate video with test draws, please go ahead and like the video and let me know in the comment section down below. But let's go ahead and jump right on over to our extra deck. Okay, so extra deck time for our Burning Abyss deck. Main deck was 42 cards. Obviously, the extra deck and the side deck are going to be 15. I feel that goes without saying. So starting off with our Burning Abyss package, we play 2 copies of Dante, one copy of Beatrice, and one copy of Purple Dante. So I think that playing these 4 is absolutely perfect. You do not have to go ahead and add any kind of additional Dantes. 2 works perfectly fine. It really doesn't hurt your deck at all. And the one Beatrice is obviously a necessity. We already know that. And the Purple Dante, I do think you should play, because there are going to be times where your opponent does just destroy your Beatrice because they have no other way of playing the game unless they destroy it. And if they do go ahead and destroy it, then you get a Purple Dante, which in a lot of cases can actually just win you the game. Within 2 turns of it being on the field, you've already drawn 2 additional cards and gained Burning Abyss graveyard effects. In addition to, if they destroy it, they're going to lose a card from their hand. So, like, that's the card's just really good. It's got so many different effects that function very well. I want to mention additionally, I'm not playing, I know we've discussed this a little bit, I'm not playing like any hand traps. So if you do play a hand trap variation, there's a very neat interaction with Beatrice, because Beatrice can send Token Collector, and Token Collector can trigger in the grave, and then your opponent's Tenyi board is completely shut off, and they essentially lose because of it. So keep in mind, if you do want to play the hand trap variation, you can do that with your Beatrice. It is a very valid play to go ahead and execute. So if you are playing the hand trap variation versus the trap variation, then that's something to consider. Then the other XYZ monsters we play, I play 1 Fortune Tune, 1 Downward Magician, and 1 Zeus. So this is very important. I honestly just think that this is so important to be playing this engine. The Zeus, I feel that everyone already knew was important, but playing the Fortune Tune and the Downward Magician also put in a whole lot of work for you. Like, please don't underestimate playing this package. If you have the ability to get your hands on it, go for it. And now with the reprints that we've gotten, this package is cheaper than ever. Like, it's very, very affordable. You can get these for probably like $0.25. You can get these for probably like $1, and you can get these for like $13. So like, you're not even paying $15 for an engine that's honestly going to win you so many games. So definitely play the Zeus package. Then, seeing we already showed it in the main deck, I might as well show it off here, and that is the DP package, and that of Verte and our DPE. This is going to come up a lot. It's going to come up excessively, and I think with the upcoming ban list, this card's probably going to be gone, which is going to be extremely unfortunate, and at that point, we'll probably cut the engine from the deck. But if the Verte doesn't get banned and we can just continue playing this package, then so be it. I'm not going to be disappointed by it, because this puts in work. Oh, the other cool part that I want to mention too is that your BA interactions on the field with them being destroyed aren't even going to matter, because you can just destroy this card and pop one of your opponent's cards before they even go off, or before you would go off with your Burning Abyss plays. So you can just get this off the board and not even worry about it. It's actually really cool. Then the Link monsters that we play outside of the Verte. We play the 1 Gravity Controller, because if you open up Seer and other Burning Abyss and no other ways to, like a graph or something, then you can go ahead and just make the Gravity Controller and a Beatrice and call it a day. It's not a great play, but it's still something, so you're better off having something than nothing. Then the Link 2s, we have a Chair Beanie and an IP. The Chair Beanie is kind of iffy in here. Honestly, the Chair Beanie, I make it a lot if I'm going second. Like, if I'm going second, I can just go ahead and find certain ways to work around boards through link climbing. And I think that's the really important part about Chair Beanie, is that there is a link climbing aspect to the card that allows you to go into like an access code, which is, you know, very, very important in a lot of ways. Making access code just wins you a lot of games, because you just pop cards for free. So that's obviously important. But then the Masquerena, let's say you open up Tour Guide and Fusion Destiny, you basically get 10 on IP, Beatrice, and DPE, which is very, very difficult to play through. So IP is definitely still worth playing. Like, don't cut this card just because we're playing the Anaconda. Definitely still play this card. Then we play a small Nightmare package. We do play the Phoenix and the Unicorn. Cards are busted. You know, being spot removal is just something that you need. Like, having 2 spot removal cards like Phoenix and Unicorn does help you just get rid of those extra spare cards that are on the board that you don't want your opponent to have on the board. That way you can go ahead and push forward for game, or you can just go ahead and get rid of their resources, so they've just dwindled down to essentially nothing. So the Phoenix and the Unicorn, fully worth playing the copies of. And lastly, we play the 1 access code. In prior list that I had, I was playing 1 copy of Boral Sword, and I've opted to just cut the Boral Sword since then, because I am playing the DPE package. If I wasn't playing the DPE package, I'd probably throw the Boral Sword back in, and maybe like a break sword or something, or, you know, it just something else that's useful and can go ahead and kind of counter my opponent's strategy. So that's if you aren't playing the DP package, but seeing I am, I just stick with the access code, and I don't even bother making the Boral sword in this particular list. That is the extra deck, though. We're going to go ahead and hop on over to the side deck and show you guys what I'm tossing into the deck when I'm going first or going second. All right, so as you can see already, we do have one card revealed that I do play in my side deck, and I'm not going to really waste any time getting into this because everybody knows this card. I'm just going to talk about it right off the bat. That is 3 copies of Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Now, this card has so much use in this deck, being a trap deck. It's going to help you really push forward and make it so your opponent can't really clear your board. That's one of the best parts about this card, is that your opponent is going to struggle, and it's going to help you set more resources too, which is obviously super neat. Like, that's a really, really neat effect. So I love this card. Card's absolutely fantastic. It puts in so much work. It's a 3,000 point beater too. Like, that's just insane, having a 3K beater in your deck. So I really think that this card is worth playing in the side. If you want to main deck it, you can main deck it too, whatever works for you. If you can't, like, afford the DP engine, maybe you could pick these up instead, because the DP engine is going to run you a decent price tag, but with these you're just going to be able to save a bit of cash, not an excessively large amount, but you'll still be able to save some cash. Then the only spell that we side deck is 3 copies of Dark Ruler. I contemplated playing like Droplets or Chalice, but honestly I went with the Dark Ruler because I figure, you know, I'd rather just shut my opponent's board off and continue playing from there. So the Dark Rulers, in my opinion, were a fantastic choice. Additionally, for going second cards, I play 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This is like basically the only going second cards that I side into are the Evenly Matched and the Dark Rulers. That's really all that I have to toss in that I thought was useful, because like it just accomplishes so much. And I think that because they're such strong board breakers, that you don't have to worry about playing an excessively large amount of other cards to break your opponent's board. So I'm sticking with the Evenlies and the Dark Ruler. Then for the other trap cards that we side, these are for going first, as I basically alluded to. That would be 3 Solemn Judgment and 3 Anti-Spell. So basically, if you know you're going first, you can side in the Anti-Spells, the Judgments, and the Heavenly Prisons, and chances are your opponent will not be playing through your back row. Like, that's the really cool part about that, is that they're going to struggle to play through your back row. And if they're playing a spell deck, well, the Anti-Spell just basically wins you the game. Now, speaking of anti-spell, I want to discuss the possibility of the upcoming ban list banning something like Imperial Order. If Imperial Order does get banned, I will be extremely happy at this point, because there are so many games that I play where somebody just draws Imperial Order, just luck sacks it off the top, and then I just lose the game depending on the deck I'm playing. That's why I'm not really playing Sky Striker, or haven't played Sky Striker in a few weeks, because it seems like the deck just, you know, has absolutely nothing to do against something like Imperial Order. So I think that anti-spell will become the new normal if we do end up seeing Imperial Order get banned. Obviously, anti-spell is a very powerful card still, and it is close to the strength of Imperial Order, but it's not as strong. So anti-spell is very, very powerful. And I also want to discuss, I have a small deck box here that I want to show you guys a card for, and I may have discussed this in prior deck profiles, but I will discuss it again. I'm not playing this card in the deck, but I just want to bring this card up because I think that it should be talked about, and that is Booby Trap E. So Booby Trap E, it's a normal card, so it's a normal trap card, so you can't actually set this off of Trap Trick, which is awesome. But you discard a card and you set a continuous trap card from your hand or graveyard to your field, and that card can be activated this turn. So the crazy part is that if your opponent chains like a Twin Twister to your anti-spell or your Imperial Order, you can just flip this, discard a card, and reset it, and then you can activate it again, and you're literally back in the same position you were beforehand. Like, it's absolutely nuts. The card's really, really good, and I think that, you know, more people who are contemplating playing a lot of continuous cards like something such as anti-spell should consider playing Booby Trap E. But the Judgment's also really good. I want to at least, you know, talk about why Judgment is good. And primarily, You're going to be using this card to stop, any kind of board wipe. So it could be a lightning storm on your back row. It could be an evenly matched on your field. Like, whatever the case may be, this card's really, really good. I think it's fantastic. So definitely play the Judgment. It's just worth siding. You have 9 cards to side going first, and you have 6 cards to side going second. And you can really just steal games, whether you're going first or second with this deck. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But that essentially concludes the entirety of the Burning Abyss deck profile. As many of you know, and as I mentioned prior in the video, I love this deck. It's my favorite deck of all time. It's something that I can play at basically any format and enjoy playing it during that format, and never be completely disappointed because I'm actually playing a deck that I enjoy playing. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video too, and you guys love Burning Abyss just as much as I do, because it is hands down the best deck out there. So if you guys did, make sure you go ahead and thumbs up the video, go ahead and smash that subscribe button, turn notification bell on, and obviously let me know what you guys think about Burning Abyss, because this deck is an absolute blast. For right now, this is Team Yugi Feels signing out.